Well, a very good evening to all the colleagues who are starting to enter the site here. Welcome once again to the Phase A conferences. Continuing with the agenda, today we have the second conference and a very interesting conference. Today we are going to talk about death, the mysteries, understand the importance of this whole process. Well, we are going to say hello here as usual to give a few seconds for other people to enter. Here is Jose, who is with us tonight, also Felipe. We also find here Nias and also Lorena. Alba is also connected here. Welcome. Well, those who do not appear here in the comments also a greeting. And as always, I would like to remind newcomers that if they want to be clear about what all this knowledge is about, watch lecture number 1. Here is the link at the bottom. If you want to be part of the group of blanks, here you have also the WhatsApp and Telegram. That's where we post most of the things that we do here on the page. So just to keep it in mind. Well, here is also Diana, who has just arrived from Tunya. From Tunya. From Pai. Or Tanja, well, from Boyaca. Well, we are reminding you that we have conferences on Tuesdays and Fridays here on the web page, a little after 7 o'clock at night. We are watching Phase A, and on Saturday we see Phase B at 7 o'clock. On Sunday we do Yo's reflection at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There is also 1 or 2 blanks that are transmitted to those who want to enter and practice. We also do Sundays at 9 in the evening. So here, everyone is cordially invited. There is no cost. Remember that knowledge does not mix with money. It would be totally prostituted if it were to get mixed up with silver. Then everyone will pay us back. With advancement, with awakening, with understanding, with strength, with all that they pay us. So here we have no reason to take possession of something that does not belong to us, such as knowledge, as elevated as this. That is why we have to give it away for free. Well, we also greet Armando, who entered for Sandra. And also here for Daisy. Very well the same. Well, over here, Heriberto also entered, and Victor. All right, we are going to start tonight's topic. Today we have lecture number 2 of the Phase A agenda entitled, What is Death? What dies and what does not die? This word death, as soon as it is pronounced, in the majority of people it generates an uneasiness. It generates fear. It generates a fear. They generate anxiety because nobody knows what death is, what is beyond death. So people are terrified and suffer from the thought that someone is going to die, or that the thought that someone is going to die, or that one is going to die. And this is due to lack of understanding. So this conference will allow us to have clarity about death and begin to fight that fear that we have of death. Because we have to make incursions, we have to get to know the mysteries of life and death. The mysteries of life and death. That's why we came. If they get carried away with theories, concepts, and beliefs, we are screwed. Because if they get into a religion, they are afraid of death, that it will go to hell, that it will go away, that it will not come back. If they get into another group, they say it comes as a spider, then it comes as a dog, then it comes as a cat, then it comes as this, then it comes as that. There are any number of theories about death. We need to investigate. As we always teach here, remember that this knowledge is very revolutionary, and what we are looking for here is that you do not swallow it whole, but that you begin to investigate what you were in your past existence, how death was generated, what you felt when you died, how the process took place. Here we are going to talk about the process, but it is up to each one of you to verify this so that you become conscious of all this. Of all this process. Good. It is necessary to understand that the reason for living is to die. So you are born to die and you die to be born. You see that if the germ does not die, the plant is not born. So death is the end of something. But it is also the beginning of something. Because there is no death without birth and no birth without death. Death liberates. Death. When someone dies, he is liberated from this mass of the physical body. If he is an old man, he is free of old age, of pain, of diseases. Then he frees. We are going to talk about this process, but we have to understand it from the mechanical point of view and from the conscious point of view. Well, we have died. And we have been born through a law which is called the law of return. In the whole cycle, the 3,000 cycles of the wheel of samsara, in each cycle are 108 physical bodies before going into involution. But if we speak in total of the whole law, we are talking about 325 We are talking about 324,000 physical human bodies. And we have gone through this death thousands of times. So it's about time we start to understand this whole process and look at this. Understand this whole process and look at this from a scientific point of view, because it is a law. These deaths that we are going to see here, there are two mechanics. And there is one that is the most important, which is death conscious. So we are going to talk about three types of death. The first death we are going to talk about is the death of the physical body. Then we are going to talk about the second death, and finally the most important, which is the psychological death. Then we are going to study each one of these aspects of these deaths. And we are going to focusing on it in order to understand very well this whole process and the need to begin to work as it should be with the psychological death. Work as it should be with the psychological death. Well, let's see the death of the physical body. This process of death, remember that no one can be executed without first giving him a trial. A person before dying must go through 3 trials. Then you start with a state of catalepsy, which normally lasts 72 hours. The person is apparently dead, no vital signs are felt. At any time during these 72 hours, the person may return to the body. And during this time, 3 trials are made. The first judgment is made in the first 5 minutes or so. This first judgment involves the person becoming conscious of everything he did in his existence. Then the consciousness is awakened. And the person goes, carefully observing each thing he did. Every event, every word, every action. From the moment he is born until the moment he is going to die. He does this with the objective of, when he goes to the second trial in the court of justice, he will not say, no, I did. Don't say I don't remember. Don't deny things because you already remember it. So you can't deceive the gentleman of the year. Well, then this is something personal. This first trial, once this process is over, which is very fast, In the astral, there is no time, so this is done very fast. It goes to the second trial. This second trial, as I said, is already in the court of divine justice. I hope you go to the court. I hope you will go to do your business with the lords of the law and get to know this process that is ordained within the process of the laws of the universe. At 24 hours, this process takes place, this second judgment before the divine law. Remember that there are 42 judges and one chief judge whose name is Anubis, who is called Anubis. In this judgment, two things are taken into account. The first one is the atomic weight. The atomic weight is of each one of the psychological eyes, the weight of each one of the psychological eyes. The weight of each ego determines whether it was increased in comparison to the past existence or not. And also the quantity of cells, that is the number. Those two aspects are what they take into account in this judgment. If increase the eyes, did you develop or manufacture more eyes or not? So they compare that with the past existence, and then they get a verdict or take into account this process to whether the person should die or not. Well, once this trial is over, the third trial, that is to say to the goats, there, not two things, but three things will be measured.
There, not two things, but three things will be measured. The weight of the good or bad deeds of each one of the eyes will be measured.
The action of a good ego is not the same as the action of a bad, perverse ego. Bad, perverse self is not the same. They are different actions, and also they will take into account the number of times that self has acted, an existence. And finally, they will make the third measurement, which is the measurement of the fire, the measurement of the reed, of the spinal medulla, to see if he worked in the super sex or not. These are the three judgments they make. This is all simply converted into numbers. So there, with this verdict, the gentlemen of the law are going to look at determining the karma that this spark will endure in its next existence. Let us remember that they are not going to release all the karma. They are releasing some of it. They are also going to organize the electropsychic design of the new personality, where they are going to make, what family he is going to have, how many children he is going to have, how much money he is going to have, how many diseases he is going to have. All of that is within the electropsychic design. This does have a right to a new existence, because if they are not entitled to any more stocks, then that's the end of it, because it would go directly to involution. Well, once this third trial is over, logically Anubis makes a decision. He orders the angel of death to cut the silver cord. This silver cord unites the 7 bodies, or the principles of the bodies, the physical, vital, astral, mental, causal, Buddhic, and atmic. The angel of death cuts between the vital and the astral. Then the mass, the physical and vital body, decay, are destroyed. And the psychic part is left, logically, in limbo waiting for the new body. If it is that it touches him, or it goes directly to involution. Once Anubis decides to order the angel of death, the angel, before making that cut in the silver cord, or cord of Antakarana, goes and asks permission first to the Divine Mother, because the Mother is love and law. The Mother is above the law. then the mother is the one who makes that decision. If the mother decides, yes, then the angel goes and cuts the silver cord. If the mother says no, even though Anubis said yes, then the mother is the one who said yes. The one in charge is the mother. Then the 72 hours are completed. And if the person does not have to disincarnate, then she comes back to his physical body. Unfortunately, nowadays, these 72 hours, these 3 days, are no longer respected. And when the spark arrives in the body, it finds a body without eyes without liver. They took out parts because today there is trade in organs. Then they tear off the dead, the ones that they take from. People have part of their body for donors. And well, this is all a business. So there is a murder, and that murder is charged to the doctors and to those who participated in the process. At other times they bury the dying alive or autopsy them. Or they submit them to an autopsy. And in this way they kill them. In the old days they used to put a little bell outside the grave with a rope and a finger of the person's finger. If the person woke up and rang the bell, the gravedigger would go and dig him up. But since this is no longer taken into account, nowadays people die asphyxiated when they are buried. So we have to understand this process. This happens in every person. It is a natural process, and that we have to keep in mind. To keep it in mind in order to understand how it works. Good. Once the angel of death has done its work to the disincarnated, 3 alternatives are open to him. The first is that he no longer has any more existences. He has completed his 108 existences and must go to involution. Then he enters there to have his ego ripped out by nature and to pay all the karma with pain with the second death. Then there in that painful process, it can last 100,000 years. Everything depends on the size of the ego, the karma that is of good. Then it is up to him to enter. Because absolutely no one makes a mockery of the law, and you have to pay for it. Yes or yes. There is no alternative. If you don't pay the right way, which is what we are doing by giving this knowledge away for free, we are paying. Well, in the involution you are going to pay. Well, that is the first alternative. The other one is that he has not fulfilled his 108 existences. Then this spark is transferred to limbo. And there it remains doing continuous retrospections of its previous existence. You go to limbo and you find a person. You talk to the person and tell him, listen, you have already died. Do not continue with this fantasy in your head. With that fantasy in your head, he looks like a mime, doing pirouettes with his hands, movements, because he thinks he is alive. With his imagination, he made his wife, he made his children, his dog, the cat, the house, the car, the job, the boss, everything manufactured, the city, and he fantasizes that he's alive, but he is in a dream. And that's because he's never awakened consciousness. Just like everyone else, everyone is hypnotized every day with the street, the house, the work, friends, study, Nobody wants to wake up. So when he dies, he continues in the same dream. But as he has no physical body there, he projects his dream with his imagination and his dream. So he thinks he's alive. But the reality is that he is living in a cave or somewhere in limbo. Somewhere in limbo. Well, then he stays there while he is given a physical body. And the third aspect is if he worked with the fire. If he awakened the sacred fire, he is not put in limbo. They take them on vacation to one of the heavens. Because if they put him in limbo, that fire would be extinguished. Because limbo is cold. You keep him warm in that heaven. And already the Divine Mother and the Masters guide him. So that when you are born again, you will take the path of knowledge. And look for self-realization. Unfortunately, when people are born, they forget everything and continue again in their degeneration. But these are the three alternatives that follow, or that are given at this process. If it is his turn to return, he comes with his electropsychic design already programmed. All the eyes come in the program and come to repeat the movie as we see it in the Return and Recurrence Conference. Everything you are living now, you have already lived it. Everything you are going to live tomorrow, in 1 year, in 2 years, in 10 years, you have already lived it. It is programmed. There is nothing new. Everything is there. So those concepts of the future, those concepts of I am going to do this and I am going to achieve this, forget about it. And I am going to achieve this, forget about it. If it is not part of that program, it is not going to happen. Because everybody dreams and everybody believes that they are going to make their dreams come true. And it turns out that no, destiny is marked. If the person decides to awaken consciousness, they can get out of there. Otherwise, they will die within the order of that electrosis design. Well, let's see the second death. The second death is the second death. This death is also equal to that of the physical body. So, if he did nothing, his 108 existences are finished because he goes to life, to the infra dimensions or to the Dantes circles of the planet Earth. And from there, he will not come out until nature does not tear off his ego by force. How long will it last there? Thousands of years. Day and night suffering. Decomposing all that ego that he didn't want to eliminate here by force. Paying the karma, all the damage he did to himself, to others, to nature. He must pay for it. That is why the pain. After all that suffering, then the spark is released. 3% and the 97% is released and the 97% is innocent. He did not get wisdom because to get wisdom, you have to kill the good ones. Voluntarily the ego. And that is what we are doing with this work. Eliminating the ego, taking out wisdom so as not to go into involution. Then there it will be reincorporated again to a new evolution in the mineral kingdom. This lecture we will see in the lecture called Evolution, Involution and Revolution. There we will expand a little bit on this process of the kingdoms of nature. That is the second death. And now we are going to see the most important death, these two that we have just seen. Are mechanical, they have to happen. Whether we want them to or not, whether we believe or not, it doesn't matter, it has to happen. Because beliefs are one thing and laws are another thing. And beliefs can say any amount of nonsense. Cheap mysticism religious prayer, but that has nothing to do with reality. And that if he dies, he goes to hell. And that if he behaved well, no, that's nonsense. That's intellectual nonsense. Sleeping elements that don't know this process of death, how does it work? Psychological death, the most important death, mother death. Death kills death for an eternity, this black death. Black death. That you are living every day, the ego is swallowing you up. The eyes feed themselves. And the whole Black Lodge feeds on their energy. Nature is swallowing you up. You do not realize it, but the years go by and every day you feel more deteriorated, older, more finished. Fornication, drugs, alcohol, debauchery, study, work. The efforts, all the ego is swallowing you up. You, all of humanity, are food for nature. Nature feeds on you. Through the eyes, if you kill the eyes, you will free yourselves from this daily death. It kills us a little at a time and a little at a time. So we came here to fight this second death. And we are also going to fight the death of the physical body. We are going to pay the lawmen everything that is owed to them, and we are going to be self-realized. We will no longer submit to the involutionary and evolutionary conditioning of nature. That is why this knowledge is so highly revolutionary. Because here we are going to liberate ourselves and seek immortality by uniting ourselves to being. Then we are slaves. People believe that they are not slaves, but people are slaves of their own selves, of their own selves, of nature itself. We have hundreds of millions of defects. Second by second they manifest themselves. People have already made this a habit, a custom, and they do nothing to control that mind. And they don't do anything to control that mind and that emotion. That is wasting energy on a daily basis in alarming quantities. I'm all kinds. Fear, hatred, resentment, all day long that mind is talking. Imagine, all day long. They are filled with worries, bitterness, anger, hatred, grudges, fantasies, dreams, grievances, skepticism, lustful fantasies, vengeful, hateful, spiteful. All day long people are just waste of energy. All this self-consideration, sadness, self-sympathy, suffering of all kinds, discouragement, annoyance, displeasure, all these states of sleep, wastefulness, alcohol, drugs, all kinds of vices, degeneration, gluttony, no, it is enormous. The amount of effects at the mental, emotional, motor, instinctive, and sexual level. There is a teaching of a Mantua master that says that if we had a pallet of steel and 1,000 tongues, we would not reach enumerate the millions of yoes we have. If you kill the IS, each self has a tiny spark of consciousness that will be liberated. So if you eliminate the self, you liberate a part of the self. If you can kill a defect, only a defect, any defect dies because it is the same process. So we must understand that Mother Death must accompany us day and night. The best friend that a person who in knowledge can have is mother death. Is mother death. That mother death is the white mother. And the black death is the ego. So it is a war between two deaths. The white death against the black death. The black death will send us into involution. It deteriorates our body. The black death is the perversion of the ego. White death is liberation. It is the destruction of the ego. So that is why we understand that the reason to live is to die. But instead of working on death, people started to feed the ego. That is to say that the ego kills them. It kills them. It kills them. And that is what people like to be slaves. To be food of the black magicians. To be food for their own ego. To be food for nature. And they don't mind being food. They don't mind being slaves. So that's why this practice of psychological death is the most important of all. Now I am going to teach how this practice is done. The mind must be still, must be silent. You must rule the mind. Be silent. Anything that takes you out of that state of silence, kill it. Learn to live without mind, controlling that mind, that insubstantial chatter, that ambiguous chatter, that uncontrolled imagination. Put an end to all that. Emotion. Calm. No pain, no joy. Calm. These are the principles of awakening. Controlled instinct. Any instinct that appears must be eliminated. Any emotion must be eliminated. Any activity. Mental must be eliminated. All sexual energy withdrawal, fornication, semen withdrawal, reaching ejaculation or orgasm must be eliminated because energy cannot be taken out anywhere. Never again. Because when a person never again takes out his energy, neither mental, nor emotional, nor motor, nor instinctive, nor sexual, it means that he is self-realized. He is united to his being. He has an active higher mind that we do not know. He has an active higher emotion that we do not know. He has an active instinct and he knows how to practice the suprasexuality that we are only now beginning to develop, to know. So it does not mean that there is not going to be activity. What is happening is that there is going to be a superior psychological activity of the caste type. That is to say, energy is not lost. But nowadays, how much energy do you lose looking at nonsense on the cell phone? Every day? How much energy do you waste talking nonsense? Thinking, remembering, imagining, fantasizing. There it is. But since that generates so much pleasure and the person does not want to sacrifice the pleasure, the animal. Animal? Well, there he will continue to be the same. With the same ones until finally the time comes for them, an illness, an accident, or old age. Accident or old age and die. Then life is very miserable. You don't understand that. We lived, we came. We were born to die and to be able to fulfill ourselves. Every little detail that prevents them from being in inner silence, in remembrance of themselves. They must ask their mother, my mother killed me. They feel how that head burns. Stop thinking. Enter into a state of concentration. Silence. Full perception. Self-observation. Any nonsense hypnotizes them. A car, a motorcycle, a dog in the street, the sun, the moon, the stars, the flower in the house, the pots, the food, the dishes, the bed, the coal. Everything is hypnotism. Then, if the person stops hypnotizing himself with external things and internalizes himself, he will begin to awaken consciousness. He will begin to awaken his consciousness. For that, it is necessary to kill all types of identification. So, death on the march. I felt this rage, this annoyance. My mother, kill me this self. Sometimes they have to speed this up because the selves are very fast. They must go at the speed of the me. They burn all that, they explode it, however you want. The important thing is to take that off immediately and fall back in a state of consciousness, in a state of self-remembering. If you are going to solve a problem, you bring a tool of the mind called reflection. If they are going to solve something they are doing and they need to use their imagination, they use it consciously to solve that. But if they are not doing any of that, they should be silent and not seek to be distracted, to be focused inward. So, to understand this is supremely important. To apply the death in motion, which is the most important death of all, putting an end to desire, to pleasures, to tastes, to desires of all kinds, both positive and negative, is fundamental. That is the death in progress, the most important death. We have the reflective death, which we will see in the reflective meditation lecture. Also a very important practice that reinforces this death in motion, but the most important is this death in motion. But the most important one is this, that we have just explained, or that I just explained. All right, let's look at the last part of the lecture, which says what dies? It dies. The physical body and the vital body and the personality. You see that a family member is disincarnated and suddenly somebody says, I saw him in the house, the spirit of the dead. No, that is the personality. The personality is nourished by the memory of the family members who are going to mourn, that they are all the time remembering the dead person. Then they project or give strength to the personality of the dead person, and that is what is manifested in the house. But as they forget the dead person, the personality disintegrates. Unless it is a famous personality, and well, that does last many years alive. It lasts for many years alive. The physical body rots in the cemetery, and at the same time, the vital body disintegrates. That is what dies. That which does not die, what does not die is the consciousness. Consciousness is eternal. That spark that each person has inside is eternal. It is immortal. That is the only thing that has value inside a person. It is the true, it is the real, it is the transcendental. That is the part of God that is within each person. The eyes or psychological defects have locked up our consciousness. Our consciousness. And these eyes return from existence to existence. Then, these eyes remain stored and will manifest again in the next existence. They do not die from one existence to another. But sooner or later, whether by hook or by crook, they will die, because in the involution they will be disintegrated. They will be disintegrated. So that is the process. In the seminal sheath, these defects return. in the new existence. And this will keep repeating itself until those 108 existences are finished that return. And send the person to the second death or involution. And send the person to the second death or involution. Tonight's lecture. As you can see, a very interesting subject that allows us to visualize a little bit what love really is. To start to get out of so many concepts that are out there. As I say, I hope you have the opportunity to investigate how you died in your past existence. How you died in your past existence. Someone will say, I don't believe that past existences exist. And what does it matter to us? The same for those who have seen this. We have the certainty and security. And for those who haven't, well, I hope they see it. I hope they see it. Because there is no one worse blind than the one who does not want to see. If you practice being, we'll show you this because this is a reality. This is not a fantasy. Nor was it written by a fool in a book. This is something that you have to verify to see what they felt when they died. In a past existence, I tried to get into the body. I tried to move my arms. I tried to lift the body and it would come out, and I couldn't lift the body and it would just lie there on the floor. I came back and got in. I came back softer. I tried to get up with my physical body and I could not. With my physical body and I could not. I was getting desperate and someone came and told me, well, it's time to go. It's over. And he said, look, and I turned to look and the body was already dead. It was already dead. Then I understood that there was nothing left to do. I had to leave. It is not painful. It is a liberation. Then you have to get out of so much concept and so much nonsense. Also, on is shown past existences, what one has done, not totally the existence. Not totally the existence, but they show you fractions and things. So it is important that we have this in mind when we go to give this conference. To have the strength of affirmation. Because it is a reality, it is not a fantasy. So let's keep in mind, as I told you, there is a conference we are going to see in the Court of Justice. Later, that is called Karma and Dharma, to go and do business with the lords of the law and start paying karma. We have huge amounts of karma to be paid. And that's why I'm here. Giving a lecture, speaking, or teaching through this medium. And that produces me a dharmita with which I am paying my debts. For that reason, I do not charge anyone anything. All this is free of charge, because we are already being paid internally for our advancement to solve all the processes, the mistakes that have been made or that our self has made us make. Because we have to pay all those debts, all those damages that we have done to the others, to ourselves, and to nature. For next week, at the next conference on Friday, we are going to see a very important topic called astral unfoldment. A fundamental practice in this way to do our research, to look for answers. That we are not going to find them anywhere, not in books, not in religions, not in Bibles, not in anything, nowhere, not on the internet. We are going to receive that knowledge directly from the being, from God, from the Father. And whoever does not want to receive this information that is real, true, well, keep putting garbage in his head with so much nonsense that is out there. Anyway, each one is free, isn't it? But well, here we talk to them a little bit, of course. So that's react, because what else? Well, of course, if they don't want to react, well, maybe we have to speak clearly. Well, this is the end of the conference. If you have any questions, concerns, you can ask them. Will we expand the topic or improve the understanding? Well, let's see here. He says, "Uy, there are so many, like they are not going to reach us." Nia says, "Over here." Do accidental or violent deaths have the same type of judgment? Or is it prior to their death? All three trials will be held anyway. The three trials are going to be made because either the trials were made before, or if it is an accident, the trials are going to be made anyway. Logically, the person is already dead, but we still have to make the trials because it is that everything is needed. Everyone, every living being is subjected to a trial. Every person is put on trial. Yes or yes? Well, it says here, Jose Luis, I wanted to know about my previous life. I made a retrospection and I saw that they made me a strange ritual. A strange ritual. I assume it was in Egypt, in a small temple, a very large coffin, wrapped in a flag. I asked, do they show us any existence? The being needs to learn something from that. That's why it was shown to him. Everything always has a reason for being. The being does not give things by chance. If it specifically shows us that at that time, it is because of something that has to be learned. Alejandro, in what area does karma multiply? By 7 existences when the person reaches knowledge, health, economy. Well, there is a law that is the law of 7. There is a law which is the law of 7. All the 108 existences, the karma of all those 108 existences remain accumulated. It is not removed. It is added, or it is all synthesized in the last 7. All the karma, because it has to be paid. So it remains there. And we have karmas, as I tell you, in alarming quantities of all kinds. Economic, health, of insanity, of fear. We have karmas. You cannot imagine the number of charges. The amount of charges is atrocious. Charges. Of course, here the person feels that he has nothing, that everything is fine, that he has been a magnificent person. That are of the most complicated yods to work, that are of ill will, that are of self-pity. That is from
lack of understanding of the evil, of the perversity that is within us.
Perversity that is within us. When the knowledge comes, no. They are not only going to charge you the karma of this existence, they are going to release all the karma. Because we are going to self-realize and we have to pay for it in cash. Well, Jose Luis, in the case of so many deaths, as in Israel, Ukraine, and Gaza, the judgment that is made to the thousands of disincarnated as it would be, we have a concept of time. Time does not exist. In the astral, there is no time. You can remember a whole existence from birth to death in 2 hours, all in detail. In other words, 60 years, 50 years are reduced to 2 hours. Imagine the speed. Is that we do not have the capacity to understand what a superior mind is. We are used to this mind, which is a donkey, a mule. Then we love it and we feel intelligent with this donkey or mule mind, or mule. We are stubborn and we believe that we have a supermental speed. No, that is not so. That is not so. The superior mind has that capacity. That is the mind that we are looking to develop. That's why we put energy into those neurons. That's why we don't throw the energy away. We conserve it. Because we want to stop being mules from being worms. And for that we have to put an end to pride. Well, not the whole ego. But pride does not want to let the person realize that he is a mule. That he is a mule.
But well,
Alba, I wonder what depends on What depends? How the person dies. The person, can the Divine Mother back to life? Because if she is killed and cut into pieces, well, no way. Or if she dies, stripped or eaten by an animal. But look, before they kill it, that is a recurrence that is already programmed. Because before they kill it, they don't make the judgments. And then after that, they kill it. And they butcher it. And they vote for it. Yes, and if he dies crushed, then too. And if he moves, he dies eaten by a lion, then too. All that is within the recurrence. But before that, they do the trial. Alejandro, the fact that they take out your organs and you go back to the body and die is another karma. That karma is charged to the physicians. And those who do autopsies and all those things. Luz Marina, is first time we are going to involution or we have already gone? Thanks. In the case, my being mind Nomo, has about 2,200 turns. That is to say that I have gone a little bit more than 2,000 times to the involution. Is that we are old men. But people don't know. Don't know that so many times it has gone in evolution until it shows you the being, right? Albert, today, if a person has more stock, how long can a person last in limbo to return? Enter about 2 to 5 years. So if he dies today, they put him back in quickly because the faster they use up the remaining stock, because the idea is to send the largest amount of the breed to evolution, almost all of it enters the evolution then. Even here there was a companion who was going to disincarnate. And what did the judges do? They did not disincarnate her, but they put the other candle, the other existence, they put it on top of the previous one. So she didn't die, and there she continued living. Because there is no time, that is, they are accelerating everything. The race is going to go into involution. We are not already in involution. What happens is that we have yet to enter with body and everything. But the race is already in involution. Vladimir Luis, when he says that he is being returned because the mother does not order to cut the cord and goes to the body, the organs have been removed in the autopsy. Autopsy there is that it happens for where it goes. Okay, well, maybe that's where it goes to limbo. And the karma doesn't charge it to that person. To that person, because the ones who committed the murder were the doctors. The person is rewarded. If he had to live 10 or 15 years more, that is rewarded in the other existence. Or they take away some karmas. And those who are charged are the doctors who killed the person. Everything is balanced and compensate. Everything. Sandra, why is nature related to the nature with the ego? Nature is the ego. You see that nature evolves and devolves. You see a little dog, a purebred puppy, so a purebred horse. Very beautiful. It's a horse that the beauty is given by the consciousness that is there inside that horse. And it's evolving. That spark, that little animal is evolving. But the ego. That is, the spark is trapped in the ego, but not being in involution. That spark gives the beauty to the horse. Does it? That is nature. Nature is what? The ego. The ego. Ego and mechanical laws. That is nature. Then there is a law called the law of the Trogon, which it says, and it will be until swallowed. Swallow and you will be swallowed. In other words, you swallow and you get swallowed. Well, Gabi, good night. How long does it take to come when you die? It comes to the same family, to the same place, just as it was in this life. This life, man or woman. It comes to the same family. Yes, in any of the roles cannot be uncle, grandfather, brother, mom, dad. All that is within the family. How long does it take to come between 2 and 5 years? At the moment, it used to take up to 200 years for a person to come back. And then the gender, that is decided in the electrosic design. Whether it's going to be male or female. Sandra, at some point, can you talk about self-consideration? Thank you. If we have a specific lecture that is called The Inner Talk and the Psychological Song, there we are going to talk. There we talk a lot about the subject of all that is self-consideration, pain, bitterness, sadness, melancholy, all of that. All that. So that's where we talk quite a lot. A very interesting conference that helps us a lot. Pain, killing pain. People feed the pain and do not fight it. And pain takes it out very quickly. It tears it to pieces. So we have to kill all those eyes. Gabi, in this life one pays for what one, or does it accumulate for the next life? Because I see people who do harm with their words and deeds, and they do super well. They have malice in their veins, they are vindictive, and they have everything first, and for that reason alone, they have the right to trample on the poor. To trample on the poor and belittle and abuse one. That must take it to you that they are charging me the fee. Yes? And they come for that purpose. Now that's a matter of them. A lot of people are going to go to involution and pay them with money, with silver. What they have done in past existences for humanity. But that lasts them what? 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then they go to involution. What one must work on is envy, and the rich self, and the desire to be rich. Being rich is a self, the rich self. You think that all those who have money are moved by something superior? No. They are moved by a self called the rich self. They are driven by an I called the rich I. And the poor are driven by a self called the poor self. And these I's hate each other. They don't like each other. And that's why the poor self attacks the rich self, and the rich self attacks the poor self. But both are degenerates. Here what we are looking for is to be conscious. Not to aspire to be rich because he wants to be rich to be equal to the other who is trampling on him. One says as poor, or as the poor me says, no, they give me money, but I am not like that. It's one thing to talk without money, and another thing to talk with money. That's like the politician. He promises a little bit of nonsense. And when he is in power, he remains the same, of corrupt to the rest. Then remove all those concepts because that is not the reality. And rather look for inner wealth. That wealth is in the being that does have power. Wisdom and love in the whole universe. Alejandro, if a person is dying, should you take him to a hospital to save him? Or should one just wait the 72 hours awake? If taken to a hospital, it would be karma for taking the person to be killed. But if not done, something for helping, and the person dies, there is karma for not helping. So do what you feel you should do at that time, and that's it. Put all the psychological state to see if the conscience tells you what to do. Here was a friend who was very sick. He was about to go to the hospital, and the being said to him, if he goes to the hospital, he won't get out alive. So he stayed at home, and there he recovered. It is very relative. What can I say? I can say, concentrate, and do what you think is the best thing to do at that moment. Sometimes taking him to the hospital is the worst thing to do. Sometimes taking him to the hospital is the best thing to do. So let's learn to make decisions for ourselves. Because if we rely on what other people say, we are screwed because we depend on this position and the way others see things. The position and the way others see things, you should not concentrate on your inner self. Look for the answer that the conscience gives you. And already, the same between making a decision and making a mistake, between not making the decision, or the worst one is not to make a decision. You have to do it. You have to take a risk. If you make a mistake, correct it. And that's it. You get the wisdom. And if you got it right, also reflect to see why you got it right. And that's it. Angelica, just as it is written in the book of life, so is the day and hour of death. The way you are going to die, and even the level of physical suffering are marked, yes. So it is. I should already be dead. It has been my turn to transcend death 3 times. Here I am. And if it's my turn to die tonight, well then. Welcome to death will be. I have no problem. I'll go and rest for a while. But as the being wants to put me to work harder, I don't think I'm going to disincarnate. But sometimes I would still like a little rest. But no, there is no... Well, the signal is gone. No. I don't know here, it's all right. What would happen? Well, I don't know. They tell me that the signal went out. Well, I will continue answering questions because here everything seems to be working fine. Well, Elias says, that is when I will die. My personality will continue to exist and manifest in another life. There is a lecture that says ego, personality, and essence. There we talk a little more about personality. Personality does not last long because the person has not been famous. A Simón Bolívar, a Napoleon, a Mussolini, a Hitler, all these personalities are alive. But a personality that has no fame dies quickly, disintegrates fast. To live through death, to see all that has been experienced, to be shown the parchment of our crimes leads us to a great shame in the end. To see all the crimes that we have committed in all our existences. Terrible, but we have to learn and reflect because you have to become aware. See the yods that made all those mistakes? Kill them and wake up. Well, Frank, the mule does not represent humanity. The mule is the mind. And everyone is intellectual, so it's a little bit of mule minds that there are all over the planet. Well, what else? Alejandro, why is it that almost all of us are already in our last existences? Because the race should have already disintegrated. They should have been destroyed several years ago. But they've had a little mercy and some work has been done on the site. So they've postponed the time a little bit. That's why... Daisy, good afternoon. Excuse me. Excuse me. How true is it that when the physical body of the disembodied person is cremated, is it true that when the physical body of the disembodied person is cremated, the personality dies? Is this true? what happens is that when the body is cremated, people move away a little bit because there is nowhere to visit the dead person because there is nowhere to go to visit the dead person because he is not in the cemetery. So it accelerates a little bit more the oblivion of the dead person. The oblivion of the dead person. And this makes the personality disintegrate faster. Emilian, in an astral, please. What is it like to walk at dawn along the path of a snowy landscape? Snowy landscape next to children singing unknown but beautiful songs. But beautiful songs and finding gold coins in their footsteps. Well, don't forget that there is a guide. Interpret astral, right? Because if they don't catch me, I epitomize. But well, I'm going to help you in this, but giving you some general hints. Walk at sunrise. What is sunrise? Well, the sun is going to rise. The sun is wisdom, is consciousness, is the Father. The snowy landscape. Children in innocence. It is snowy, it means that it is cloudy. You can't see it clearly. Unknown songs. Those songs are related to the emotional part. And the gold coins is dharma for me to see those eyes that are generating this cloudiness. Cloudy. And that do not allow him to see the innocence of the inner child, of the children, of the consciences. I help they are giving him, and they are giving him a dharma, giving you a dharma, isn't it, to face that kind of self from the mind and from the emotion and emotion. Marina, are we going to be in the next race? Are we going to involution like this? Thank you. If you don't achieve the Exodus, don't finish the first mountain. Don't take the direct path. You won't be in the next race. You will go to involution. Because in the next race, it's only going to be for people who have taken the direct path, who are in the second mountain. Well, Celita, good night. Senor Luis may be back in a few months. Or even in years. May return in a few months or even years. I assume he is dead. No. Dead. Nowadays they are putting them in between 2 to 5 years. They are coming back again. Well, who else is around? Let's see. Emilian looks and sounds great. Already we didn't lose the signal. Claudia, maybe the signal went away. The signal, if suddenly it was a colleague who lost the signal and thought it was here, The spirit cannot enter in the conscious astral unfoldment. No. Night is unfolded and no spirit has entered him. Well, much less is he going to get in if he is conscious. Well, John, Luis, let's see. This was at the beginning of the conference. Thank you, John. Emilian, thank you very much. Julian, what could it mean to see my bitch in the astral? What I'm telling you. It's a matter of time before I get caught as a fortune teller. But okay, I'll answer this one too. What can it mean to see a bitch in the astral in a crowd of people? And she disappears. It could be a attachment test, and a few days later she disembodied. She was being warned that the animal was going to die, that it was going to leave, or the animal itself was telling him that he was about to leave. They were warning him. Well, I think that's all there is to it. Thank you very much to all of you for having attended and for having contributed and asked questions. And we will see you next Friday. Don't forget, we are going to see the astral unfoldment. Well, here is one last concern. It says, Esteban, in the lapse of 2 years, the personality disintegrates, or it doesn't matter. To incarnate, it does not matter. Personality depends on the strength it has. It can last for many years, 50, 100 or more. See the personality of Simón Bolívar. There he is alive. How many times have they been born? The person who was Simón Bolívar? I don't know. Well, ready, I think that's it. Do not forget. Seek to be accompanied day and night with death. Death gives you life. Death gives you youth. Death gives you intelligence. Death gives you sexual potency. Death must be with you day and night because death will liberate us. He who does not want death does not want life. If you seek life, first remain with death. On this path we will walk day and night united with death. United with death. The mother death. The white death. In the right hand of the angel of death is the key to science. Without death there is nothing. This knowledge is based on death. If you want and if you seek to be in love, seek death first. Let us remain day and night with death. May death accompany you. May death give you perpetual rest. Let's leave this conference until here. Thank you all very much, and we will see each other. Well, over here, Emilian says that there are countries where they place the urn of ashes in the living room of the house. A few pebbles there, that's all. That's it, that's all. Well, see you later. Have a pleasant rest of the evening. May you remain or continue working with death. And may death give you rest and peace. Farewell.